Okay, I'm going to do this as a live hangout. I'm not sure whether or not anyone will be in chat or not, but I want to do this as a live chat just because it's slightly easier. I don't know whether or not anyone's going to interact or not, but I thought I would pop on live chat and just talk to you guys from a live perspective. It's kind of like a healing witch. I was thinking about doing a healing witch video, talking about adversity and loss and the difficulties of dealing with adversity and loss. And I thought I would pop up on the live chat and talk about it. Okay, hi Julie. So, okay, good. The chat is working. So today is obviously a very difficult day, and I've had quite a few messages making sure I'm okay. And that and the live chat that I did with Asby and Torval today have been kind of lights in the smog, which is what I've entitled this video. Hey, Mystic. So today we've had tragedy in the UK. You're not alone. You're not alone. And I want to thank everybody who reached out and checked I was okay. I don't have family in that area and I was nowhere near it, but we're all a bit shell-shocked in the UK today. But thank you to everyone who reached out. It really was lights in the smog today. So this video is this live chat rather, is kind of off the cuff that I decided to do to talk about adversity and talk about kind of like the situation that is like thrust upon us right now. Kellyanne Maddox sort of summed it up really well this morning, and that was we can't allow ourselves to get into a place of hate, because hate thrives in this scenario. The times of adversity, we have a choice. When we are faced with a choice, we either kind of give in to like the xenophobia, the foreigner hating, we give in to all that side, or we stand up, we put our wands up. This is how I was like, put your wands up, Harry Potter style, solidarity. We reach out to those who have lost someone, those who are affected by someone who has had a loss, and so forth. And we say, you know, as witches, as spiritual practitioners, as people, we're going to stand by each other, because I think that's a really important thing to talk about. And that's kind of why I decided to do it as a live chat and just be like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing it live, I'm doing it off the cuff. We're not orchestrated, we haven't got a script. I've got no idea what I'm going to say from this point, but I really wanted to make this video and just reach out back to you guys and say, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody who has been a light in the smog today, because there have been people who have been like on Facebook breaks and they have come back on Facebook to check that I'm okay. And I think that is a beautiful side of community, and it really touched me today that people have been coming from here, there and everywhere, like all over the world, and just checking that we're okay. And that was a light in the smog. And I'm not going to call it a light in the darkness, because I think darkness is beautiful, but I thought smog kind of, when everything is hazy and when everything is difficult and when everything is kind of out of control and crazy and you can't see for the smog, I thought smog kind of applied quite well to it. So hi to everybody who is in the live chat. Thank you for coming in the live chat. It's probably not the lightest, fluffiest of live chats to have jumped into, but I appreciate you guys being here, because I really kind of wanted to talk about this in terms of like a healing witch, and kind of get your thoughts on it. Oh, what, can other people see me? Am I talking to myself? Okay, Julie, okay. I was like, oh no, have I just said it all? Maybe reload it. Okay, people, okay. I was like, I've just said all of this thank yous, and then I was worried it couldn't. Okay, cool. I'm glad you guys can see and hear me. And it's kind of been in the air today, like this adversary thing that's been going on, and this kind of like loss has been like in the news today. We've lost 22 souls in Manchester. There's like the threat of career and stuff. Zack Snyder's 20-year-old daughter hung herself. Roger Moore has passed, and you know, when James Bond has passed, and that's the least of the sad things, it's a day for it. It's a heavy day for it. So I really kind of, okay, cool. I'm glad you can hear me now. I really wanted to like reach out to you guys and be like, a lot of the times when I do live chats and a lot of the times when I do videos lately, it's been to be a little bit lighter, but I really wanted to reach out to you in times of adversity and be like, I think we should live chat now as well. I think it's important that we live chat and we communicate now as well, because in times when things are really difficult and things hurt, it can be so easy for us to feel isolated, to us to feel without community. And like I said, you know, with Lights of the Smog, of all these people have come and been like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm all right. And so I really kind of wanted to like hit that back to you guys, be like, you know, I don't think that we mourn secular, you know, like in little boxes anymore. I think a lot of us feel these effects of things no matter where in the world we are. I mean, I know a lot of our American cousins feel quite bonded to the UK. A lot of you have relatives in the UK or have gone over and back and forth from the UK and have moved from America to the UK or vice versa. And I know a lot of you guys feel like cousins in a lot of ways, and have felt that hurt of today in a number of things. And I thought we would have a live chat and we would talk about it. We'd talk about the need for healing at this point. We would talk about the need of community and the need of understanding and the need of love more than anything else, because at moments like this, I have been surrounded by, and I've heard a lot of like angry responses. And I went out today to the post office and I could hear people screaming in their houses, like full on, like having full blown screaming arguments. And I was like, that's crazy that people, like, you can hear people in the streets like screaming at each other about this, and you're like, we need to have a platform and we need to talk and be like, you know what, guys, we can all stand together with our wands in the air and be like, we can be there for each other. We can talk about solidarity. We can say, we don't accept this is not something we're going to excuse because it's violence and hatred, but we're not going to respond with violence and hatred because we're better than that, and we're going to be better than that. I know, I'm sorry, this isn't the easiest or lightest perhaps live chat to have come into, but I felt like I needed to do it. You know, I tried to record it on video and I couldn't quite get where I wanted with it, and I thought, well, if we live chat, then I can just talk to you guys, and it's a little bit like us sitting around being like, you know, in solidarity, like cups of tea out, everybody, because that's the English way. Tragedy, put the kettle on, no matter what the tragedy is, no matter what it is, kettle on, cup of tea. And I was thinking about this in terms of like microcosm and microcosm and macrocosm. Like on a world scale, this is happening a lot. Like tragedy is happening a lot, and we're a bit forced to look at tragedy a lot, and it's heavy. And this is kind of the reason that some of my videos have been a bit lighter of late, because I'm like, the world out there is heavy enough sometimes, and like the lighter videos can help with that and be a bit lighter. But now I've gotten to this point where I'm like, I think we need to have a Healy talk, like a talk of it, like a healing witch talk, which is what they are usually called on my channel. Is when I go into the deep healing spaces, I put them up as healing witch, and then people kind of know what they're getting in for. I think with this one being titled Adversity, we should be okay. I think it would be a good idea if we did do a healing ritual all at the same time. I think it was a really good idea. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all at the same time. If like within the next few days, if everybody was putting those energies out. I've done that this morning. I videoed it and put it out into the world because I felt that I wanted that energy to carry forward as much as possible. But I will absolutely engage in more healing rituals with you guys. I think that's a really good idea. I think was it Mystic that Mystic that suggested it. And I think that can be really helpful. But within ourselves, I think we need to all be coming at adversity in a place of understanding, because on like a personal level today, I've had scenarios and situations of people coming at me from a place of not understanding. And this isn't related to the overarching heaviness, but this is kind of like the macro, like personal level stuff. Like I've had people be like, right, well, you won't do as I say, so you're an evil person. And I'm like, wow, the empathy is off the scale, and I don't know what to do with that. And my heart was like bleeding all over again. It's like I've been crying all morning because of like the world, and now I've been crying all afternoon because of personal stuff. Yay! Told you it was a happy little live chat today. Sorry about that. But the need to show each other understanding is becoming more and more and more important. Like, exactly, Julesy. Why do people need to live like that? I never understand the hatred. So the problem with hatred is hatred begets hatred. And in a lot of the countries where the attacks often originate, they haven't affirmed whether it has originated. A lot of people learn to hate the West, and it's kind of reinforced by media, and then people drop the biggest bomb ever on these people, and it begets more hatred. And at no point is there any ever understanding, just because people lead a different kind of life, and people go in with this I don't know if it's like a cultural wound. I don't know if it's like a personal and a cultural wound, and people go in with a hostility and an anger and a separation, and they treat people like, exactly, Raven, exactly, Magpie. For anyone who's watching later, Magpie said, you must see with eyes unclouded by hate, see the good in that which is evil, and the evil in that which is good. Pledge yourself to neither side, but vow instead to preserve the balance that exists between the two, which is a little bit like the yin yang that Chris was talking about in her live chat yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I have done a healing ritual on a crystal grid early today. I don't know when in the middle of. Oh, okay. So Mystic said for later that they did a healing ritual and a crystal grid, and they started crying in the middle of the ritual. Yeah, me too. And do you know why I think that is? I think at that moment we opened ourselves up, and we took on the pain empathetically of the people that are hurting, and people who are hurting directly, and then world mourning. Like the world is in mourning right now for more loss. And I did a chaperone of the dead. That's what my ritual was this morning. And after I turned the ritual off, I did a little bit further chaperoning of the dead to take the dead down into the underworld, guiding the souls home, is what I was talking about on that video. And I burst into tears. I burst into tears when I did that, because there was this empathic emotion thing that was going on, and I was just like, it was a part of me, and it was outside of me, and it was inside of me, and I just burst into tears with that ritual. And I think many of us may burst into tears, but then that's the proper response. To mourn loss is the proper response. And I don't mean proper as in you should be doing it necessarily. I mean it's the morally, spiritually, human-based response from a place of love and understanding and empathy. Yes, tears are also cathartic. They're an important part of healing work. I watched a video by a former CIA operative, and she said everyone sees themselves as the good guy really blurs the line between opposing sides. That's absolutely true in terms of when people are looking at like if they're being warlike, people can justify just about anything. that's the sad side of human nature, is that people will justify just about anything. People will put blame elsewhere, like the studies that they did about like Nazis that gassed people. They put the blame on like their superiors and stuff because in their own heads they weren't taking part in it, and because that's the only way they could live with themselves. And that's an extreme example, obviously, but if we don't take on personal responsibility for our part in everything, then we're excusing everything, and it becomes a vicious cycle of not accepting, not understanding, not reaching out empathetically, and it basically breeds hatred and contention. All murder is awful, but to target young people is particularly heinous. See, I was thinking about this morning, and I didn't want to put any more value on any kind of life. I didn't want to put more value on young life than old life. But what I will say is that I feel that they were targeted because they are the adults of tomorrow. They are the future. And that's how I felt about that situation. I didn't want to place more value on any life because I don't agree with valuing more life than the other, but I do feel that they were targeted on purpose because they are the adults of tomorrow. They are the future of the tomorrow, and they were engaging in an activity which is frivolous in their minds of some, it's purely for leisure, purely for fun. And I wondered how much of that came into it as well. The good thing about tears, every time I guide people to the underworld, I cry. Mystic, me too. Absolutely, I do. Quite often, when I work with death goddess energy in general, I burst into tears, and it's kind of how I know it's real, because it touches me so empathetically, so deeply, that I cry my eyes out. So the thing I'm going to say about crying, if you cry, and even if you don't cry, but if you are crying or you've cried about this situation, this adversity, this loss, think of it as that is part of your ritual. That is part of healing the world, because you are shedding tears effectively for complete strangers. You are showing love and empathy and sympathy for complete strangers. We don't know them. We don't know who they were, but we mourn their loss because it never should have happened. And it was just, hey, Molly, it was just a tragic waste of life. And so if you shed tears today, think of that as being part of the healing the wound, not only of yourself and grieving for yourself, but also addressing that wound in terms of loss on a world scale. So you're kind of partaking in ritual just by crying, because empathetically, you're reaching out to those who are survivors, those who have been injured by this, either physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritual, or all of the above. Thank you for coming, Molly. I think it is important that we sit and we have a talk, and because I couldn't formulate a video around it, I thought we'd just sit and talk and hold space. So Rebel Child is, I'm going to read out comments just for later, just for anybody who isn't here right now. In situations like this, it is necessary to acknowledge and feel all emotions. Our emotions are natural responses, and tears are a part of our healing. I agree. What I will say is that at this point, when everything is very raw, very painful, we must be careful of the emotions that carry over to hate. So we must be careful of our anger. From our place of anger, we can go to a place of justice, or we can go to a place of vengeance, and they're very different end results. And I understand completely, believe me, the anger that comes with this sort of tragedy, whether it's on a world scale like we have right now, whether it's within our personal lives right now. I've kind of got both going on right now, so I've kind of got like double whammy of this. But if we take our anger at the people that have hurt us, and we go to a place of vengeance and a place of not understanding and a place of attack and dehumanizing, then we risk continuing the cycle of hatred. I understand that, yeah. Mystic, I think of it as a part of the ritual. Tears to me is healing and release. And as part of that, we can release our anger too and think about, you know, the world that we are building for tomorrow, because the world that we are building for tomorrow is very much in chaos right now. Like we were in like this churning pot of social climatic change. There are forces that are desperately like trying to basically ruin the future, as far as I can see. People who are trying to segregate and build walls and cause hatred and divide and conquer, and there are the people fighting back against it like crazy right now. There are people who, students who walked out on Mike Pence was one of the news stories that I saw this morning, and I was like, that is brave. Because whether or not you agree with it, and I'm not getting into that, that's politics, but those students were brave in their standing up for what they believed in. What happened in Manchester is horrific. At the same time, this thing happens much more in other parts of the world on a considerably larger scale. Bodicea. It does. And I'm always hesitant when I talk about this, because I try and talk about the fact that other people have had large losses of life in other areas of the world, and this is very true. And I did talk about when the bombs were being dropped. I've talked about when Turkey had losses. I've talked about it on the channel, and I tried to make sure I cover across the world. And we have to be careful that we don't basically westernize or whitewash pain and trauma. And that's kind of what we're talking about here today as well, is that if we demonize certain parts of the world in response to this, then we are basically acting out of a place of hate. There is no understanding there. There is conditioning on both sides of the world to hate the enemy, which is kind of what we've talked about already. And so we have to kind of move forward from a place of trying to make the world a better, safer, more understanding place, and like reach out on a humanitarian level rather than from a place of anger, from a place of hatred, as easy as it can be to, yeah, exactly. So Raven, Dreamer, it's tempting to see your enemies as evil, but there's good and evil on both sides of every war ever fought. And of course, you know, all we have in history is the survivors, the victors that get to tell the stories. Ultimately, people are people, no matter where they're from, no matter what language they speak, no matter the color of their skin, no matter their gender, no matter any of it. People are people, flesh and blood. We all bleed the same. And that gets lost, especially in times of tragedy. We can come together and we can mourn and hold space for the great loss that has happened today. And there's been a lot of loss today, and there's been a lot of loss throughout this year, and there's been a lot of loss last year, and it's continuing, sadly. And I felt the need to just kind of just hold this space, because it's so easy to get down that slippery, yes, Raven Dreamer is Magpie, sorry. It's so easy to get down that slippery slope of dehumanizing the other people. And that's really not what we should be about. We're a spiritual community. We seek the inner truths, the hidden truths, the deeper truths. We seek to connect to deity to make ourselves better. And we have to be aware that these processes take place. That's the word I was looking for, in the world. And we have to try and show understanding even to people who don't deserve it, maybe. I mean, deserve is one of those concepts anyway, like who gets to decide who deserves what. But yeah, so I understand anger completely. I understand it completely. I don't believe in evil because I think that it's nature. When a snake bites you, it doesn't make it evil, it makes it a snake. I think that was Mystic. I agree. I think with the concept of like good and evil, black and white, blah, 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 blah. It's a very Christocentric way of thinking, and it's invasive in our society in places that aren't necessarily tantamount to religion. Like you'll see it in your literature, like there's always a good side and a bad side. And I don't know if it's happening more often everywhere. History is a violent place. I think the thing about right now is that we've got more media coverage than ever before, and we're more aware of it maybe, and it's more of a world platform, more easily a world platform. Like in history, if you were going conquering another country, for example, there'd be a whole carry on before that. You know, there would be a build up, and you'd be in a ship, and there'd be the journey, and then there'd be the travel, and then there'd be the thing. But now people can drop bombs at the drop of a hat, and the media has been very disappointing today. There has been a lot of speculation this morning before the thought of letting the services do their job investigating, from Tanya. Yeah, media is one of those things. It's it can be in the service of the people, and it can be for controlling the people. It can be used both ways, and it's up to us to be careful. I always look for something good to going on in the world to counter the bad. If not, I would lose my hope in mankind. So that's Pixie. Now, what I'm going to say to you, Pixie, is the thing that I tell myself every time. I read a quote once, and it was like, in times of great horror, look for the helpers, because you will always find them. And that quote has stood me through a lot of years, because I think since 9/11, I've been more and more aware of these moments of great tragedy that have been more frequently occurring, at least in my awareness anyway, throughout the world on an increasing scale. And we kind of had the bombing a while back in England that was on the bus, or I'm pretty sure it was on the bus. And now we've got this one in Manchester. I think that it really is important to look for the helpers, because you will always find them in times of tragedy. I think it's one of those quotes that sees me through. And today, the helpers that I have seen have been people who have been coming out of the ether, coming on Facebook, who've not been on for months, and just to come and check on me. And I thought that was moments of pure beauty from an empathetic level. I was like, that was like, I was touched by it, by the amount of people, because in some ways I'm like, no, it's okay, I'm not in Manchester, but on the other hand, you realize the scope of people coming to check that you're okay, and people being aware that you might have a load of people coming to check on you, but they don't care, they're going to come and check on you anyway. And I thought that was community at its finest. Like, you know, we get phases within every community. It's not just the pagan community. I've heard people say it's just the pagan community. It's not. It's every community of ugliness, and we get it, you know, and people attacking each other and whatever. But then you come into moments like this, and you find that how people are really behaving is like from a place of love, and it really is beautiful. So I've had a couple of those moments today where I was just glad to reach out and connect with people. And Raven Dreamer, which is Magpie. I feel like that's your Targaryen name now, like Raven Dreamer, who is Magpie, who is Lady of the Greenwood, who is daughter of the Stag, and things like that. I'll just reel off your titles, Magpie. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. This is very true. I think the capacity for good and bad, so much as terminology goes, because we have to be careful, because good and bad are a sliding scale, let's face it, and it's perception. But the human capacity to do good or do bad, and we'll use those terms loosely, is within all of us. We've all done things that we regret, and we think, you know what, I wish I'd not done that, and oh, I hurt that person. And most of us learn from that, and then we do things which are selfless sometimes, and nothing to do with our egos or anything like that, but we do them anyway out of a place of love or understanding or sympathy or empathy or whatever. And it is at times like this, and I think it is important to remember that we have a worldwide community. Hey Noah. We're having a nice light chat about adversity and things. And that global community is really important, and is something that I kind of think that is more highlighted in times of adversity than any other time. And I really wanted to talk about that and celebrate that today, because today is a day of loss and mourning, and people are shedding tears all over the world together, and there is a heaviness and a sadness. But at the same time, in that crying, in that moment of pain, we're all reaching out to one another. And that's a beautiful interweaving, a beautiful connection. And I think that deserves a moment of like respect, a moment of celebration. So I really did just want to hop on. Gothic Arcana, I agree with this, but it's so easy for people to be despicable. It's easy to be bad and hard to be good. It's unfortunate, and not many people open doors for victims of tragedy, which is changing. I agree. So I'm a survivor, and I've seen the ugly side of people like shutting doors on victims. Like when my group of friends found out I was a survivor of sexual abuse, every single one of them abandoned me. And that's not from a place of like, you know, pity me or anything, but it's just a fact. That's what happened at the time. And that to me makes it more important to be good. Like, it might be difficult to be good. It might not be the easy path to riches and success to be good, but I think it's important to be good. It's like, I would much rather be able to live with myself than be like rich overnight or a billionaire overnight or whatever. And where I want to get to a place of, you know, self-sufficiency, for example, I'm not going to sell my soul to get there, kind of thing. I think it becomes more and more important to be, exactly, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. That's something I hold to very much. And it's not about selflessness. It's not about, you know, giving everything you've ever earned off your back and thinking you're a better person for it. It's more about the balance and understanding and compassion. Exactly, T. Reid. It's about being compassionate towards our fellow human beings. It's not turning everybody away, but I mean, I think maybe sometimes we cling on too tightly to what we have anyway, but it's not giving everything of yourself away to the point where you're not actually doing anyone any good. You're just, you know, bleeding yourself dry and not filling up the well, to talking like simile. But Mr. Rogers, Earth Angel. True, Molly. And hi Dawn. So I think we definitely have to be that change that we want to see in the world. That's what Willow, same as me, being good is a choice, and if you've been in a hard place sometime, you know how it is and you don't want others to experience it. Yes, the number of times I've been like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I've said that, like, personally, like in a personal space or in like a video space or whatever. You got all the quotes today, Magpie. I'm just sat here like reading your quotes on. It's so hard to be good when some people are just blah mystic. It can be a challenge for certain. It can, like, when some people are treating you and like, you know, and you're like, I've given you everything I have to give, and I keep giving you everything I've got to give, and all you're giving me is jip. No, I get it. I get like how difficult it can be. Well, everybody abandoned me. Everybody I knew, apart from one girl who has since left, because they didn't know how to deal with me in a mess. They saw me as having, like, I was supposed to be this strong person. I was supposed to be this together person. I was supposed to be a leader person. I was supposed to be the person that everyone came to for answers and counsel and sympathy. And I was a mess and broken, and they didn't know what to do with me, so they all left. And that was very much my hard learning experience, and why I value people who are there in times of adversity now, which is kind of the point of this live chat, is just saying, you know, the people who are there in times of adversity are appreciated, no matter how they are there. They turned up, they showed up, they offered sympathy, they offered help, they offered tears, whatever they offered some part of themselves, and that's no small thing. So that's definitely worth celebrating. I don't know why people do abandon people in those situations, but I am the queen of the world, Mystic. I don't know what you mean. Queen of the world. Honest, not really. I think like who we are like internally, though, is a journey, is a process. I think there is always the opportunity to learn and grow and change and shift. I mean, we can't get into the habit of being like, there are people who behave badly and that's it, because it's more complicated than that. We're a spiral of emotions and good and bad choices and circumstances, and we all have our moments where we're not pretty and we don't do the right thing, and we you know, we're human, we fall down, and what defines us is how we get back up again, is how we address that balance, is who we become from that point on. It is hard at the minute to see anything good in this, Julesy, but I think the good in this is the helpers, is the solidarity, is the reaching out of people, is the shared tears in the community on a world scale. We're all here talking about this today, and that's not necessarily good that has come from death, but it is some good in the world. And I think you don't necessarily need to see the good in a situation. You can just allow the situation to be what it is. The situation is awful. The situation is tragic, loss and mourning, life taken too soon, young lives lost, and it's okay for it to be what it is. It's sad. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have. You don't have to have like a silver lining to it. You can allow it to be what it is. You can allow it to be a tragedy, and you can mourn that and be angry at that and be sad at that and feel that for what it is, and just allow it to be what it is. It doesn't have to have a purpose necessarily. I think women in particular, but spiritual people, often look for what they can take from every situation, because it makes life a bit more bearable. And I understand that because I'm a survivor. So trust me, I get it. I'm like, well, at least I know who I am today because of all this horror that I've been through. But sometimes situations, we just have to allow them to be hard and difficult, and that's okay. We can allow them, and we can grieve that together. And there is something beautiful following the situation. No lipstick today, Mystic. No. I've got nothing on my lips at all today. There you go. Shadow work, man. This is a shadow work. Is so important. We're seeing the work of an unhealed collective shadow of the world from Magpie. I honestly think we are. I think we're seeing like a cultural, social shadow going on now. And the problem is there are a lot of people in power right now who want to perpetuate that, who want to take this situation and be like, right, let's hate some more. And there are a lot of people in the world right now who are like, no, this is enough. This is enough. This is horrifying. And like, there are babies and young people being lost over here, and like overseas, there are young people being lost over there. Let's not ever forget that. Like, there are young people being lost across the world too. And that's important to remember, that loss is loss. Irregardless, you know, loss of life is loss of life, and it didn't have to be this way, but somebody dropped a bomb or whatever. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're sitting on, that shouldn't be happening. So exactly, Pixie Jew, we should not become what it is we despise. Exactly, we should not become that which we find horrifying. I know we can't be present for every tragedy, but I think it's important to understand we can face what tragedies come to grieve together. Briar Lynn. Exactly. I think there has been a global coming together, a global, like, almost hand holding of like, I know I'm not there, but I'm here. And I think that's important. I think we are, exactly, Raven. I think we are facing this collective shadow. I think all this turmoil in the world right now is a result, like, of the politicians that are spouting all this hate, and you're like, there is a backlash to that. Thankfully, there is a backlash to this hatred of, like, you know, not everybody is down with being racist. Not everybody is down with xenophobia. Not everyone is down with fox hunting. Not everyone is down with taking meals away from kids. It's not right, and you know, people are standing up against it. I mean, that's kind of like one scale to another, but yeah, so that is important. So I'm going to go now. I'm going to say thank you for everybody for joining me. I just wanted to get on here. I mean, it's been 39 minutes or something. Yeah, 40 minutes. So I'm going to go now, go have something to eat, and just have a very quiet evening. But I want to say thank you for everybody for joining me. I thought it was important that we talk about this, that we reached out. We're not going to talk about Theresa May because I could throw her off the pier, I swear. But yeah. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, everybody, for chatting. Chat has been very lively, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody who sent me messages and things. Honestly, thank you so, so much. It's meant the world to me today, and it's been necessary and important. So thank you, everybody. Many blessings, and I'll see you tomorrow. Probably on Chris's channel tomorrow. We're going to be chatting about astrology and death. So that will be a live chat tomorrow if you guys are interested in seeing that. And we'll talk about that respectfully. Okay. See you guys.